Do you want to talk a little bit about like the Man United badge?
Yeah, man. It's an important one for me still, because when I was young, I grew up supporting Man United. You know what I mean? Like I grew up in London, but when I was a kid, I wasn't getting taken to no Premier League games or nothing. You know what I mean? And or even much games. So it would be like, I know like football fans, it's like, oh yeah, your local team, whatever. But for me, it wasn't really one of them ones. And it's like our generation, and I know we grew up watching Match of the Day. Match of the Day was the one, you know what I mean? And if you ain't got like, I'm watching man like Eric Cantona right now and just thinking, right, this guy's deep. You know them ones. I was just like, that's who I want to be. Like that's who I'm playing like in the playground. Yeah, I'm Cantona. You know them ones like I'm Ince. You know them ones, and it's like I'm Andy Cole. So it was just like, yeah, you know what I mean? You're watching football, man. I winning everything. It's like, yeah, well, that's my team, innit? You know them ones like that's how I grew up. My brother supported them, so I was just like, yeah, that's my team. Supported them all most of my life, and then I was just reading an article in my magazine, just not even like no conspiracy theory thing, no nothing, and it said that the badge, on the badge they have the devil, and then they have a little boat, a little ship that's on the top of just above the devil, and Man City have the same thing, and it was saying that they built that out of some kind of pride. So now they put that on their badge as some kind of pride of the canal that was built to take the cotton from the coast into Manchester, and because during the Industrial Revolution, as they call it, there was Manchester was called Cottonopolis. You know what I mean? Because it was such a big cotton producing and cotton using area. It was the centre of the cotton manufacturing industry in the UK, and one of the biggest in the world. And it just sort of struck me. I sort of put two and two together and was like, this canal was built to get cotton in from the coast. Where's that cotton coming from? That cotton's coming from what they call America. You know what I mean? New World slavery, plantation slavery, all of these things that are the reason why there was cotton even in the UK to come to Manchester. So if that cotton is coming from the Americas, and it was a triangular trade, that's the same boat that would have left England from the coast, gone to Africa, picked up the slaves, picked up Africans who were enslaved, take them to the Americas, and then come back to England with the cotton that our ancestors, had been picking as slaves in the Americas, in the Caribbean. Do you know what I mean? So to come back to England with this cotton and then build a canal so it can get to Manchester so that the cotton industry can thrive and build up Great Britain's empire that's responsible for all this slavery and all these fuckeries, that's not something to be proud of. You know what I mean? I don't care if you're from London, if you're from Manchester, if you're from anywhere, do you know what I mean? That's not something to be proud of. You know what I mean? You put a slave ship on top of your badge, you know what I mean, and be like, yeah, we're repping that. And you know, I was thinking all them black players who I see over the years, the Andy Coles and the Danny Welbecks now, kissing the badge and tapping their heart over the badge, but they're just there going, yeah, kissing the slave ship. Like, yeah, man's repping that. All them fans all around the world, like, yeah, it's a slave ship. And I was just like, when I found that out, I was just like, I can't support this team. Do you know them ones? And you know what I mean? It's the same with Manchester City. And then I started thinking about these things, and I'm sure there's all different kinds of logos I know it's fact. Do you know what I mean? All these different types of subliminal messages that people are talking about. But there's all these things all over Britain, all over Europe. There's all this insignia that is supposed to be something you're proud of, but it's a representation of a past atrocity that's been done not only to Africans, you know, no one's, but to the indigenous people of Australia, the indigenous people of the Americas, North and South. You know what I mean? That's one continent, same as Africa's one continent. It's not. There's no divide there. There were indigenous people there all over, and you know what I mean? It just shows that people can make apologies for things. People can say, "Oh, it ain't what's going on now." But this pride, this idea of pride of Britain and all these things, people don't want to divorce it from the fact that people are still proud of this thing called empire. You know what I mean? And to be proud of the British Empire is to be proud of a history of rape, pillage, slavery, murder on a mass scale. What's to be proud of that? Why would you want to be part of that? You know what I mean? By all means, be like, yeah, I'm from where I'm from, I was born where I'm born, and you know what I mean? But, you know what I mean? At least acknowledge, if you actually are sorry for something, that your people did something, do Do you know what I mean? You don't want to associate with these things and go on like it's a sense of pride. And you know what I mean? For imperialism to die, certain things need to be acknowledged. And I know, man, who were born and bred. You know what I mean? All the generations that they can count, and who are white, English, who are disgusted by that. You know what I mean? So it's not just me. Do you know what I mean? It's not just African people or Aboriginal people who should be upset by this. Everyone should be upset by this. We're going to genuinely say we're on a human level. You know what I mean? That this is one of the most horrible tragedies in the history of humanity. Why are you going to be putting that on a football team's badge and be proud of that? You know what I mean? And I say it goes deep all throughout society. You know, certain people need to be accountable for their things. Like Barclays, Lloyds, these were slave-owning companies. There was no banks, there was no insurance companies before transatlantic slavery. And all of these things are growing off the back of our ancestors' torture. So, you know what I mean? There's a big argument for reparations. That's another conversation we can go into. But, you know what I mean? People are saying, oh, slavery, racism's dead, slavery's dead, and all these things, and it's not our generation who did it. But, you know what I mean? If you're carrying on the legacy of a family, especially, and an empire that's responsible for something, you're carrying on the legacy, you're still profiting from that legacy. How are you not, at least, maybe not to blame, but you're profiting from it, so you're to blame for it now. Do you know what I mean? As a nation, the world that we're living in is built upon the fact that not just Britain, France, Spain, Portugal, these nations went around the world and raped and pillaged and destroyed. You know what I mean? And it's built upon these things. So until someone's willing to take responsibility for that and try and acknowledge that and have some kind of sort of remorse globally, and I mean as a nation, or whatever you want to say, like, the beef's still there, as far as I'm concerned. You know what I mean? And it's like, that's not me saying I've got beef with Europeans as Europeans. You know what I mean? My problem is the fact that how are we supposed to move forward as a human race if certain people, right? And you know what I mean? Europeans in America, Europeans in Australia, Europeans wherever they are, aren't willing to. I'm bear in mind, you know what I mean? Half of my family is European, and I'll say this straight. Need to acknowledge the fact that what they did was wrong. What they did was up there. I mean, it's difficult to say about, you know what I mean, degrees of wrong. You know what I mean? Because there's certain things that just cross the line. You know what I mean? Holocausts, transatlantic slavery, all kinds of different things that have gone out through history. But certain things are given sort of like recognized that there should be remorse there. You know what I mean? And action is taken, whether the action is good or not is one thing, but action is taken and respect is given. You can give it to one, but you're not going to give it to the other. What's that? You know? And so for man to be walking around with Man United badges on, with slave ships on, celebrating, you wouldn't see a Jewish person rolling around with a swastika, kissing it. You know what I mean? But like Raskaz said, you know what I mean? Man in America salute the flag. Same way over here, I see man walking around with British flags on. It's an empire. It's not a country as we know it. It's not the miners, you know what I mean, who are represented by that. It's not the working class. Because bear in mind, the first slaves who went to the New World, who went to the Americas, were criminals. Same way they went to Australia. Prisoners who were blatantly poor people who were being attacked. You know, them ones, they were the first, but they couldn't handle the heat. They couldn't take the indigenous because they knew the land better than them. So they needed someone who could take the heat, who didn't know the land better than them. If they did escape, wouldn't be able to get home. Africans fit the bill, and then we have years upon years upon years of imperial, colonial, slave mentalities bred into us, still responsible for the situations we're in now. And I heard something deep the other day. Someone was like, do you know what I mean? I don't just blame them, I blame us too. And I think there's, talking about what's happening now, we are to blame for some of our own problems, but we have to recognize the fact that it was based upon history, concrete history. We were taken from our land, sent somewhere else, and dehumanized for 500 years. What other race of people can say this about their history? And yet we're blamed for this, whereas other people aren't. You know, other things happen to them, whereas we're just responsible for our own problems. You know what I mean? But we still have to take responsibility. If we want to get out of this, no one's going to do it for us. That's always the attitude. Malcolm X taught me that. We want to do something, we got to do it for ourselves. No saviour's going to come, we got to do it for ourselves. And as much as I'm all about growing on a human level, we have to recognise that there are struggles among races of people that are being, again, pushed down by like an individual or like a small percentage of people, the majority of which are European or of European descent. Yeah, they link with other people, you know what I mean, who are on the same tip, cross nationality, when the common denominator that they work by is money, and I acknowledge that, you know. That's, you know what I mean, there'll be Africans involved in that, there'll be Middle Eastern people involved in that, I'm sure. But this globalized world, this one world system is sort of emerging out of things. The fact that to be taken seriously in business, you have to wear European clothes. You can't turn up to a business meeting wearing full African Messiah garments and be taken seriously. No, you can't. You know what I mean? You have to go European models of business. All of these things that just dominate the world are all off the back of transatlantic slavery and the history of colonial empire. Boy, Man United badge, Man City badge, Arsenal badge, Cannon. Everyone's in it. So we gotta get out of it.